The black limousine glided silently through the empty streets as Samuelson returned home from his exhausting business trip to Tokyo. The leather seats embraced his tired body, but his mind was focused on one thing: the small stuffed rabbit he clutched in his hands. It was bright pink with floppy ears and a tiny bow tie, something he had carefully chosen from the airport gift shop. Samuel was 45 years old, a technology entrepreneur who had built his fortune through innovative software solutions. His company designed security systems for banks and government buildings across Asia. People knew him as a brilliant businessman, but few understood that behind all his success lay a heart that beat only for one person: his 9-year-old daughter Lily. Lily had Down syndrome, and she was the most precious thing in Samuel's world. Her mother, Maria, had passed away 3 years ago after a long battle with leukemia. Maria had been the perfect mother, patient and loving, always making sure Lily felt special and valued. In her final days, as she lay weak and pale in the hospital bed, Maria had grabbed Samuel's hand with whatever strength she had left. "Promise me you'll protect our angel," she had whispered through tears. She sees the world differently, but that makes her more beautiful, not less. Never let anyone make her feel broken. Those words had burned themselves into Samuel's heart like a sacred vow. The grief after Maria's death had nearly destroyed Samuel. He threw himself into work, traveling constantly, trying to escape the emptiness that filled their large house. Lily seemed lost without her mother, often sitting alone in corners, talking to her stuffed animals. Samuel knew she needed more than he could give while drowning in his own sorrow. That's when he met Jessica Martinez at a technology conference in San Francisco. She was 32, worked in marketing for a pharmaceutical company, and had the kind of gentle smile that reminded Samuel of better days. Jessica seemed genuinely interested in hearing about Lily, asking thoughtful questions, and even bringing small gifts when she visited. When Jessica first met Lily, she knelt down to the child's level and spoke softly. "Hello, beautiful girl. Your daddy tells me you love butterflies." Lily had giggled and shown Jessica her collection of butterfly stickers. Samuel watched this interaction with hope blooming in his chest. Here was a woman who could fill the void Maria had left behind. Jessica appeared patient with Lily's slower speech patterns and didn't seem bothered when the child repeated herself or asked simple questions. Samuel began to believe that marrying Jessica would give Lily the mother figure she desperately needed. Their wedding 2 years ago had been simple but beautiful. Lily served as a flower girl, wearing a yellow dress that Maria had bought but never seen her wear. Jessica's family welcomed them warmly, especially her younger brother Marcus, who was 28 and worked as a freelance graphic designer. Marcus moved into their house 6 months after the wedding, claiming he needed time to get back on his feet after losing his job. Samuel didn't mind. He wanted Jessica to be happy, and family was important. Besides, Marcus seemed fond of Lily, often playing simple games with her and making her laugh. But success in business had always demanded sacrifice, and Samuel found himself traveling more frequently as his company expanded into new markets. He would be gone for weeks at a time, attending meetings in Singapore, Seoul, and Bangkok. Each time he left, Jessica would kiss him goodbye and promise to take excellent care of Lily. "Don't worry about us," she would say with that reassuring smile. "We'll have our own little adventures while you're conquering the world." Samuel would call every night to check in, and Jessica always had pleasant stories to share about Lily's day, how they had gone to park, read books together, or worked on simple puzzles. This latest trip to Tokyo had lasted 3 weeks, the longest Samuel had ever been away from Lily. He had closed a major deal that would expand his company's presence throughout Japan. But the entire time, he felt a strange uneasiness in his chest. When he tried to call home 2 nights ago, no one had answered. When he finally reached Jessica the next morning, she explained that Lily had been feeling sick, and they had both gone to bed early. Something in Jessica's voice sounded different, rushed, almost annoyed, but Samuel pushed the feeling aside. He was probably just tired and overthinking things. Now, as the limousine turned onto Maple Street and approached his house, Samuel felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had told Jessica he would return tomorrow morning, wanted to surprise both her and Lily. In his mind, he pictured Lily's face lighting up when she saw him and the new stuffed rabbit. He imagined her running into his arms, chattering excitedly about everything she had done while he was away. Samuel also looked forward to seeing Jessica's surprised smile and hold his wife close after being apart for so long. The car stopped in front of the tall iron gates that surrounded their property. Samuel thanked the driver and stepped out into the cool evening air. The first thing he noticed was how dark the house looked. Only a few windows on the ground floor showed any light, and even those seemed to flicker strangely. Samuel frowned as he walked up the stone pathway. Usually, Jessica left the porch lights on when she knew he was returning. The front garden, which Maria had planted and Jessica had promised to maintain, looked overgrown and neglected. Dead leaves scattered across the walkway, and several of the rose bushes appeared to be dying. Samuel used his key to open the heavy wooden front door. The moment he stepped inside, a sharp, unpleasant smell hit his nostrils. The unmistakable odor of stale alcohol mixed with rotting food. The grand hallway, which was usually spotless and welcoming, looked like a disaster zone. Empty bottles were scattered across the marble floor, some still rolling slightly as if they had been kicked recently. Pieces of broken glass glittered in the dim light, and dark stains spread across the expensive Persian rug that Maria had chosen for their home. Samuel's heart began to race as he called out, "Jessica? Lily? I'm home." His voice echoed to the empty hallway, but no one responded. The house felt cold and abandoned, nothing like the warm family home he expected to return to. Samuel stepped carefully around the broken glass and moved deeper into the house. The dining room was in shambles. Chairs overturned, plates smashed on the floor, and what looked like the remains of several meals ground into the hardwood floor. The sight made Samuel's stomach turn, but he pressed forward, desperate to find his daughter. As Samuel approached the living room, the sound of muffled music and slurred voices became clearer. He paused at the doorway, and what he saw there would haunt him for the rest of his life. The spacious living room, with its high ceilings and elegant furniture, had been transformed into something that looked like the aftermath of a wild party. Empty liquor bottles covered every surface, cigarette butts were ground into white carpet, and food was smeared across the walls. But none of that mattered when Samuel saw what was happening in the corner of the room. There, sitting on the cold marble floor near the fireplace, was his precious daughter Lily. The sight of her broke Samuel's heart into 1,000 pieces. Lily's usually clean and carefully brushed hair was tangled and matted, hanging in dirty clumps around her thin face. Her favorite yellow dress, which Maria had bought her for special occasions, was torn and stained with grease and unknown substances. Her small hands and face were covered in dirt, and her legs were bruised. But the worst part was what she was doing. Lily was desperately gathering scraps of food from the floor, bits of moldy cheese, pieces of stale bread, chunks of meat that looked days old. She stuffed the disgusting remnants into her mouth as quickly as she could, her eyes darting around nervously as if someone might take the food away from her. Samuel watched in horror as his innocent daughter chewed the rotten scraps, her little voice mumbling words that cut through his soul like knives. Must eat fast before Jessica says no more. Hide some in pockets for later when tummy hurts at night. Samuel's knees nearly buckled as the full reality of what he was seeing crashed over him. His daughter, his precious angel whom Maria had begged him to protect, was scavenging for food like a stray animal. How long had she been living like this? How many nights had she gone to bed hungry while he was away building his empire? The stuffed rabbit in his hands suddenly felt heavy and meaningless. What good were toys when his child was starving? Lily looked up and saw her father standing there. Instead of running to him with joy as Samuel had imagined, she froze like a frightened animal caught stealing. Her wide, innocent eyes filled with fear, and she quickly tried to hide the food she had been eating behind her back. "Daddy?" she whispered uncertainly. "Are you angry with me? I was just cleaning up the mess like Jessica told me to. I'm being good, I promise. I'm eating all the leftovers so nothing goes to waste." Samuel's vision blurred with tears as he knelt down beside his daughter. The innocence in her voice, the way she apologized for trying to survive, the fear in her eyes that her own father might be angry with her for eating scraps. It was more than his heart could bear. He reached out to touch her face gently, and Lily flinched as if expecting to be hit. That reaction told Samuel everything he needed to know about what had been happening in this house while he was away. On the expensive leather sofa across the room, Jessica lay sprawled in a drunken stupor. Her usually perfect makeup was smeared across her face in black streaks. Her hair was a tangled mess, and her designer dress was stained with wine and vomit. Empty bottles surrounded her like fallen soldiers, and she was muttering incomprehensible words under her breath. Occasionally, Samuel could make out cruel phrases like "stupid kid" and "waste of space" mixed in with her drunken rambling. The woman who had promised to love and care for his daughter was passed out drunk, while that same daughter starved just a few feet away. Sitting in an armchair nearby was Marcus, Jessica's brother, in an equally disgusting state. His clothes were wrinkled and dirty, his eyes bloodshot from alcohol and possibly drugs. When he noticed Samuel standing there, Marcus let out a harsh laugh that sounded more like a bark. Well, look who decided to come home," he slurred mockingly. "Your little princess has been keeping us entertained. You should see how fast she can clean up after our parties. It's like having a trained pet." Marcus's words were like acid on Samuel's already bleeding heart. The rage that built up inside Samuel was unlike anything he had ever experienced. This wasn't just anger. It was a primal fury that threatened to consume him entirely. These people had taken advantage of his trust, his love for Jessica, and his absence to abuse the most vulnerable person in his world. They had turned his home into a den of cruelty, where his innocent daughter was treated worse than an animal. Samuel's hands shook with the effort of controlling himself. Part of him wanted to grab Marcus by the throat and make him pay for every cruel word, every moment of suffering he had caused Lily. But Samuel forced himself to focus on what mattered most. He turned back to Lily, who was still crouched on the floor, trembling with fear and confusion. "Sweetheart," he said as gently as he could manage, his voice thick with emotion. "You don't need to be afraid. Daddy's here now, and I'm never going to let anyone hurt you again." Samuel slowly reached out his arms, and after a moment of hesitation, Lily launched herself into them. She was so much thinner than when he had left, her small body feeling fragile and breakable in his embrace. As Samuel held his daughter close, breathing in the smell of her unwashed hair and feeling her tiny heart beating against his chest, he made a silent vow that would change everything. Never again would he put his business before his child. Never again would he trust anyone else to care for the most precious thing in his life. And never again would Lily have to scrounge for scraps or live in fear. Samuel looked at Jessica and Marcus with eyes that burned with determination. They had no idea what was about to happen to them, but their days of abusing his daughter were about to end forever. Samuel gently picked up Lily in his arms, feeling how light she had become. She wrapped her thin arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder, her small body shaking with exhaustion and relief. "I missed you so much, Daddy," she whispered. "I tried to be like you told me, but my tummy kept making sad noises, and Jessica said I was being too loud. She said I had to wait until everyone else was finished eating before I could have any food, and sometimes there wasn't any left." The casual way Lily described her abuse, as if it were normal, made Samuel feel sick to his stomach. How had his bright, happy daughter learned to accept such treatment? How had she convinced herself that this was somehow her fault? Samuel kissed the top of her head and whispered, "You did nothing wrong, my angel. Nothing at all. The people who hurt you are the ones who were bad, not you." He carried her away from the horrible scene in the living room, but not before taking out his phone to call the police. As Samuel waited for the authorities to arrive, he sat with Lily in her bedroom, which was the only room in the house that still looked somewhat normal. He helped her wash her face and hands with warm water, gently removing the layers of dirt and food stains. Lily sat quietly, her eyes never leaving her father's face, as if she was afraid he might disappear again. "Are you going to leave me again, Daddy?" she asked in a small voice. Samuel felt his heart break all over again at the fear in her question. "No, sweetheart," Samuel promised, looking directly into her eyes so she would know he meant it. "I'm never leaving you alone again. From now on, wherever I go, you go with me. We're going to be together always." Lily's face lit up with the first genuine smile Samuel had seen from her since he returned home. It was a smile that reminded him so much of Maria that tears started flowing down his cheeks again. When the police arrived 20 minutes later, Samuel had already documented everything with his phone camera. He took pictures of the destroyed house, the scraps of food on the floor where Lily had been eating, and the unconscious forms of Jessica and Marcus. The two officers who responded to his call were professional but clearly shocked by what they saw. Officer Rodriguez, a woman in her 40s who had dealt with many child abuse cases, knelt down to speak with Lily while her partner, Officer Thompson, interviewed Samuel. "Can you tell me what happened here, honey?" Officer Rodriguez asked Lily gently. The little girl looked at her father for permission before speaking. Then, in her innocent way, she described how Jessica and Marcus had been having parties every night, how she was only allowed to eat after everyone else was finished, and how she had learned to hide pieces of food in her room for when she got too hungry to sleep. She talked about sleeping on the kitchen floor when the parties got too loud, and how Jessica had told her that her father didn't love her anymore because she was too much trouble. Officer Thompson wrote down every word while Samuel struggled to control his emotions. The policeman had seen many cases of abuse and neglect, but something about this sweet little girl describing her suffering in such matter-of-fact terms affected him deeply. When Jessica and Marcus finally woke up enough to be arrested, they both tried to deny everything. Jessica, still drunk and stumbling, claimed that Samuel was lying and that she had taken perfect care of Lily. Marcus accused Samuel of setting them up and demanded to call a lawyer, but the evidence was overwhelming. The condition of the house, Lily's physical state, and her detailed account of the abuse left no room for doubt. Jessica and Marcus were handcuffed and taken away in the police car, while Lily watched from her bedroom window. "Are they going to come back and hurt me?" she asked her father with worry in her voice. Samuel held her close and assured her that they would never be able to hurt her again. The next several days were a blur of activity for Samuel. He took Lily to the hospital for a complete medical examination, which revealed that she was severely malnourished and dehydrated. The doctor said that with proper nutrition and care, she would make a full recovery, but it would take time to undo the damage that had been done. Samuel also arranged for Lily to see a child psychologist who specialized in trauma, knowing that the emotional wounds would take longer to heal than the physical ones. Dr. Sarah Kim, the psychologist, was a gentle woman in her 50s who had worked with many children who had suffered abuse. After her first session with Lily, she spoke privately with Samuel. "Your daughter is remarkably resilient," she said, "but she's also learned some very unhealthy coping mechanisms. She blames herself for what happened, which is common in abuse cases. It's going to take time and patience to help her understand that none of this was her fault." Samuel made major changes to his life immediately. He turned down several lucrative business opportunities that would have required travel and instead focused on projects he could manage from home. He hired a team of people he trusted completely to handle the day-to-day operations of his company while he concentrated on being the father Lily needed. The large house, which held too many bad memories, was put up for sale. Samuel and Lily moved to a smaller, cozier home across town where they could make a fresh start. The legal proceedings against Jessica and Marcus moved quickly with the overwhelming evidence in Lily's testimony. Both were convicted of child abuse and neglect. Jessica received a 5-year prison sentence, while Marcus got 3 years plus probation. Samuel felt no satisfaction in seeing them punished. He was too focused on helping his daughter heal to waste energy on revenge. The most important thing was that they could never hurt Lily again. Recovery was a slow process for both father and daughter. Lily had nightmares for months and would often wake up crying, afraid that the bad people had come back. Samuel would sit with her until she fell back asleep, sometimes telling her stories about her mother or singing the lullabies Maria used to sing. Gradually, the nightmares became less frequent, and Lily began to laugh and play again like a normal child. Samuel also had to face his own guilt and grief. In therapy sessions with Dr. Kim, he talked about how his obsession with business success had blinded him to what was happening at home. "I thought I was being a good provider," he told her through tears. "I thought giving Lily financial security was the most important thing I could do, but I failed her when she needed me most." Dr. Kim helped him understand that while he had made mistakes, the abuse was not his fault, and the most important thing now was to be present for Lily's healing journey. One of the turning points in their recovery came 6 months after the arrests. Lily had been working with an occupational therapist to help her regain weight and strength, and with a speech therapist to rebuild her confidence in expressing herself. One evening, as Samuel was making dinner, something he had learned to do properly after years of relying on others, Lily came into the kitchen with a drawing she had made. "Look, Daddy," she said proudly, holding up a picture of two stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. "That's you and me in our new house. See how we're both smiling." Samuel looked at the drawing and felt his heart swell with emotion. It was the first time since the abuse that Lily had drawn herself smiling. He hung the picture on the refrigerator, where it remained as a symbol of their healing journey. As the months passed, Samuel and Lily developed new routines and traditions that were all their own. They had weekly movie nights where Lily got to choose a film, and they shared a big bowl of popcorn. Samuel taught her to help him cook simple meals, and she delighted in being his sous chef. They went on weekend trips to parks and museums, always together, building new happy memories to replace the painful ones. Samuel also made sure that Lily understood her own worth and value. Every morning, he would tell her how proud he was to be her father and how much joy she brought to his life. He emphasized her strengths and talents, helping her see that having Down syndrome didn't make her less capable or lovable. Lily began to flourish under this constant affirmation, her confidence growing stronger each day. 2 years after that terrible night, when Samuel found Lily eating scraps on the floor, they celebrated her 11th birthday with a party that was everything a child's birthday should be. Samuel had learned to bake, and together they made a beautiful butterfly cake decorated with Lily's favorite colors. Dr. Kim attended the party, along with some new friends Lily had made at her special needs program. As Samuel watched his daughter blow out her candles, surrounded by people who truly cared about her, he thought about how far they had both come. "What did you wish for, sweetheart?" Samuel asked as Lily hugged him after cutting the cake. She smiled that beautiful smile that reminded him so much of Maria and whispered, "I wish for us to be happy together forever, Daddy." Just like this. Samuel held her close, tears of joy streaming down his face. They had survived their darkest hour and emerged stronger, bonded by love and an unbreakable trust. The story of how the little girl devoured leftovers after Stepmother's party became a testament to the power of parental love and the resilience of the human spirit. Samuel learned that success meant nothing without the people you love, and that being present is the greatest gift a parent can give their child. Lily, despite the trauma she endured, showed incredible strength and taught her father that love and patience could heal even the deepest wounds. Their journey together proved that families can be rebuilt, trust can be restored, and hope can triumph over even the darkest circumstances.